So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to be looking at the full career of this player, but his impact on the NHL led to a major impact on the radical competitor called the World Hockey Association. Of course, we're going to talk about Robert Marvin Hull, Bobby Hull, or some people consider one of the best forwards and one of the best athletes in Canadian hockey history. Now, Hull was basically known for his multi-form style. He had great skating ability, who could go end to end in a second, and he had the ability to shoot the puck at a very high velocity, which led him to be known as the Golden Jet. He was so good, according to published reports, some teams used two players to cover him, and sometimes that didn't work. Now, he played a grand total of 23 years in the NHL and the WHA. And in the NHL, he mostly played for his championships team, the Chicago BlackHawks. He won the Hart Memorial Trophy as the NHL's MVP twice, and the Art Ross Trophy as the NHL's leading scorer 3 times. And he led to the Blackhawks through the Stanley Cup in 1961, and he eventually later moved to the Winnipeg Jets, where he won AFCO Cup championships in 76, 78, and 79. Now, he led the NHL in goals 7 times, the second most of any player in history, and he led the WHA in goals once more, and was named the WHA's MVP twice. Elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 83, the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame in 97, and he was named in 2017 one of the 100 greatest NHL players in history. Now, his time with Chicago, again, was very, very important. He brought Chicago out of the doldrums of the 1950s into competitiveness in the 1960s. His teams made to the finals a few times. Being successful was very important for Chicago franchise, because there was always talk if Chicago didn't really improve entering the 60s, it might lead to either a moving of the franchise or basically a second-rate status. Now, this is where the stuff comes in. In 1972, when there was talk about the WHA coming together, Hull expressed his desire to get better salary by Chicago. Despite the fact being one of the top superstars in the league, he didn't feel he was being paid what he's worth. Again, according to published reports, some Montreal Canadiens at the time were getting in the $200,000 range, and Hull was not getting that. Now, Hull responded to various overtures from the WHA in regards to moving to the team, and the one that came close to home, no pun intended, were the proposed team in Winnipeg, called ironically the Jets. Now, in 1972, he jokes that he would jump to the Jets for $1 million, a sum that many people considered foolish at the time. Now, the Jets, in response, gathered the other league owners together to contribute to the unprecedented amount of money, on the grounds that inking such a major star would give permanent credibility to a new rival league, and that's what happened. All the member teams at the time of the inaugural 72-73 season backed $1 million, and Jets owner Ben Haskin agreed to the sum and signed Hull as a player coach for a contract of $175,000 a year over 10 years, plus again that $1 million signing bonus. Now, even though some litigation kind of held up the changeover, he instantly became the WHA's greatest star at the time, besides Gordie Howe, winning league MVP in 72-73 and 74-75. Now, his time in the WHA was known for also the super line he played on with line mates Anders Hedberg and Elf Nielsen, and they were called the Hotline. And let me tell you, it was quite the line, comparable to Shot Lemaire Lafleur at the time. Now, Bobby Hull's NHL stats were impressive, but in the WHA, they continued to expand. In his first season, he had 51 goals, 103 points. Second season with the Jets, 53 goals, 95 points. Then his power with the Hedberg-Nielsen line exploded. He almost scored a goal a game pace in 1974-75 with 77 goals in 78 games, including 142 points. And in 75-76, 53 goals 76, 123 points. Injury plagued season 76-77, but still 21 goals. In his last full season with the Jets in 1978, 46 goals, 71 assists, 117 points. Now, his full WHA and NHL totals, including playoffs, are well over 1,000 goals. And he wasn't the biggest player on the ice, but he was what you call a sniper. He found a way to become close to the net, comparable to Esposito. But people would back off at his big shot, and when he broke the 50-goal mark in 65-66 with 54 goals, still it was very rare in the NHL for a player to score 50 goals. Up until that time, I think it was only Boom Boom and Maurice had the 50-goal mark. But the only problem with Hull, and I should have gotten this early in the podcast, he was accused and probably confirmed he was a wife abuser for a lot of his seasons in the NHL and WHA. He wasn't good to his women in the early part of his life. That alone shouldn't discount his production. Everybody has skeletons in her closet. In this case, it was a different era, and I think Hull has shown contrition for what he's done. And it caused, back then hockey was a very, very rough sport. Tim Horton and a few others were not the greatest people off ice, but on ice they were good. Again, a person's bad choices in life shouldn't discount the talent. Everybody has an understanding that nobody's perfect. I don't condone what he did. I don't really celebrate Hull too much, but I have to give credit where credit is due. He changed the NHL. He changed the medium scoring NHL to a higher scoring teams in Chicago and Winnipeg. Mikita, of course, in Chicago, and his brother Dennis as well, being part of his legacy, playing on the same team with his brother, made the BlackHawks and Dennis a better player. And the other regret, of course, we all know that Bobby Hull was banned from the 72 Summit Series, and but eventually, times changed by the 74 Summit Series, WHA against the Russians. He eventually had a chance to play. And in the 76 Canada Cup, where he was more than welcome to play with Team Canada, he was one of the best players on that squad, probably one of the best Team Canada squads of all time. And having the same team with Guy Lafleur, Bobby Hull, Bobby Orr, Potvin, all these players was just a dream team. So he's been a part of a lot in his career, but the WHA years really stand out because without Bobby Hull, there wouldn't have been the amount of some success and the amount of recognition, because he had Hull and Gordie Howe, J.C. Tremblay, Mark Tardif, all these marquee stars, and he basically kept the league on his back for many years. Now, Winnipeg Jets in 2019 still owe a lot to Bobby Hull, because there'd be no Jets team or even no Jets revival without the understanding that Bobby Hull put Winnipeg on the major pro map, besides the CFL, of course. But if you ever have a chance to meet Bobby Orr, he has a lot of stories. Like his brother Dennis, he's a great storyteller. And, there were times back in the day where Bobby would be playing on the road with very sparse crowds, and people would even chant Bobby, and you could hear every chant in the rink. I think of a game, I think he was playing against Cincinnati, where the announcer said, well, I don't have to tell you when Bobby's on the ice. You could hear people chant Bobby, Bobby. And there was two Bobby chants back then. It was Bobby Orr and Bobby Hull. And ironically, Bobby Orr eventually played with Chicago later on, so it would have been two Bobbies in the same team. But that's neither here nor there. So on this kind of okay morning where it's still flooding in New Brunswick, I wish I didn't have to say it's still flooding in New Brunswick, but we're still under flood watch. Be careful out there. Watch the barricades. Respect the soldiers and the cops that are helping people get there. And if you can help your neighbor with pumping or sandbags, please do so. It's very important to support your neighbors in times like this. So, have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Keep your stick in the ice. Bye.